great job of touching on different strategies, especially providing feedback for kids. What I tried to come up with was finding a resource for kids to use, and actually teachers as well, that helps kids provide their own sort of data. And I know that when you see a lot of these that I'm going to present to you, these are called thinking maps. And the thinking maps that, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but it's a program that was put together and is research-based, in which they really try to find a way that use different styles of thinking maps that most people don't really use. Most people jump into like the Venn diagram for comparing and contrasting. But some of the research that they touch on is, the graphic organizers are popular because they help students organize information visually. And there's different ways that kids and people learn. The three main ways that people learn are kinesthetically, auditorily, and visually. And what this research shows is that with thinking maps, they're really concentrating on the visual part of how people learn. And that's the information that I pass out to you right away. It just really breaks down what thinking maps are and the purpose behind them, and some research and numbers that go along with it. But visualizing allows thinking and to create concrete images. So really what thinking maps does, if you look through the packet at your leisure, there's two different types of visuals that they've used over the past, and I say they as teachers, educators, we've used these different visuals. And the two different types of visuals that they're most commonly used are the brainstorming webs or the clusters, and that's for mind mapping, clustering, whatnot. And then the other part of the visuals is content-specific graphics. And that goes along with science and history, Venn diagrams, plot, and whatnot. But what thinking maps does is they create a third group of visuals. And thinking maps provide a common visual language in classrooms. And this is a resource that if we use it as a school with Fidelity all the way from K-5, kids would have a better understanding of it and better practice as they moved up. But with the types of visuals that thinking maps use is more of a, let me see if I can get you on the same page here, is the types of visuals. There's brainstorming webs, clusters, content-specific graphs, and then the thinking maps. And if I could get you guys to take a look at the page right behind you, or not behind you, but behind this page. These are all the 8 different thinking maps that people can use in classrooms and kids can use to collect the data that works for them. And they really go to defining in context, describing qualities, comparing and contrasting, classifying, part to whole, sequencing, and cause and effect. There's really, and then seeing analogies. There's a great connection with these that you can use across curriculum. You don't have to use it just for writing or history or science. You can use it in math, especially the analogies and stuff. But what I wanted to provide for you is a chance to take a look at these and let you have a chance to ask questions about them, because I've had training with these and I've had a chance to look at these. Each visual representation is linked to a specific thought process, and by connecting the dynamic visual design with specific thought process, students create mental visual patterns. And really what we're trying to do is create a system in which the kids aren't just using a graphic organizer that we give them, but the thinking maps are created by the kids themselves. And so it's something that it's a resource and a tool that once you teach the kids how to use these, then they're basically on cruise control. They can use any blank piece of paper, and it's an opportunity for the kids to create their own data. And since each thinking map is geared toward the thinking process in this category right here, then it can be an effective tool. So if you take a look at the other packet that I gave you, it shows you all the maps that are in better detail. And they're actually super user-friendly. For example, the circle map for defining in context. I tried using this a lot with my third graders a few years ago, and it was a great way. It depends on the time of year that you guys use this. It can be like icebreaker from the very beginning of the year and getting to know your classmates. It's also a way to, if you're talking, creating like accessing background knowledge and you're trying to find out what the kids know before you teach the lesson, this is a great way to access that prior knowledge, because you put the example in the middle, you write something down, cars, and then you can fill it up on the outside. It's kind of like a target, you're trying to meet the middle. Yes, ma'am?
I was thinking, I could see this really being helpful for students who are second language learners to build that context of how things are related and how that could kind of spiral.
Absolutely.
And maybe it could help us as teachers gather a better understanding of their contextual knowledge of a specific word or idea, even a person like this.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that I could see that like with Mitchell and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And I've used that in the past like this. When I went through the training on using this resource, it was a school that had a much more culturally diverse population, and so it was great for kids to see that. And you know, we get so caught up in using KWLs, you know, and not that it's a bad tool, but there are other tools out there, and it's just, you know, this is flexible to use in any sort of way that you'd like, you know. Yes.
We had or have Kidspiration to do kind of some of these mapping. Are any of these other ones, are there any other programs that you know of that allow you to create these on the computer?
You know, I think this is kind of a trademark curriculum.
Okay.
And so I don't know of any other programs that would work exactly like this. But
Okay.
you're right, Kidspiration, and it just shows you how flexible these are. Because I mean, you could create them in any setting. It's just it's not necessarily like the creation of the map; it's the thought process that goes with it. You know, and so what the kids are using it for. And so when the kids are defining context, like this circle map, then they're using it to define the context. You know, and you know when I mean, you look at all, if you keep going through this and you look at all the other maps that are going along with it, there's so many ways that some of these, like the comparing and contrasting, we call it the double bubble map. It's amazing how so much of this, I mean, you can create a Venn diagram just by circling up. You know, so it's not like these brand new concepts, you know, but it does, you know, it's about the visual part of it, and it's about being able to attach kids' own thoughts into it, you know. So when, you know, you use a Venn diagram, there's almost a training, I mean, it depends on what's visually stimulating for the kids, I guess. You know, I think that's the best way of putting it, is being able to like take so much stimulation away from them and just making it a lot more simple. Less is more, you know. And I think the reason why I chose these and I found this resource is because I do teach kindergarten now, you know. But you know, when I was using these a lot was when I was using was teaching more intermediate, and it works across curriculum, you know, in any grade level. And so I think it's just a great resource for teachers to use in any sort of way. And again, you know, I've used these just to start off by teaching the kids just these smaller pages. I print these off and allow kids to use them and just fill them up. But a lot of times you want to use it on a bigger piece of paper. You can use it as big as you want, and it can go as far with it as you'd like. But if you'd like to take a couple minutes and kind of look through it and see if there's any questions that you have or any comments that you'd like to share, please do so. Go ahead and take 2 or 3 minutes and see if there's any clarifications you need.
I like that. I've never seen that before.
You know, the thing is with this one is that you can only write one word in each one.
Like
You
you
know,
blew it up like you were saying, but made it bigger, draw a picture in it.
right? So that picture is it's good. And this one is built off of this one. You know, so you start with this one, whole map for describing, and you know, it's really hard for kids to. I didn't realize it when I was teaching these maps, but it's hard for kids to think of one word, one adjective to describe what's in the center. You know, that's where the challenge comes in, and that's where the academic rigor is. You know, because they want to write like that sentence in the description. You got to find that one word. You know, but once you start with this one, then the double bubble becomes a lot easier for them to use. In there, the ones that were surprisingly a little bit difficult was this one.
Oh, yeah, I was looking at that,
Figuring
that's,
out genes,
very,
you know, and then finding a relating factor, you
Yeah.
know?
yeah.
I mean, it's almost easier to just create the analogy first and then put the map in as it
Yeah,
goes, you know?
yeah.
And a lot of times, I think with a lot of these maps, is that like, you write the word first, then you circle it up and then you classify it, you know, so, but,
Yeah. Mhm. I mean, it could be a good enrichment.
you know, with writing, I think of it, you know, like planning a lot for writing these, you know, is a pretty effective tool to, you know, a lot of times when I'm teaching intermediate, the kids have to come up with a plan, you know, and they have, you know, it just helps them organize their thoughts a little bit more. But, you know, we all have our own way of doing, you know, a graphic
I kind of
organizer.
like this one because it would lend itself really well to the three body paragraphs that you have to have.
Right.
So it's like, here's the overall topic, and then you just like their topic says,
You know, yeah.
it just like classifies it a little bit, breaks it down.
Absolutely, and like I said, you know, it doesn't have to be just on a small paper, I mean, you can
Right.
get a butcher paper and just create it, you know, so it's
Yeah.
super user friendly, but,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and Eric and I were just talking about how I think analogies are really hard.
Yeah, that's what I brought up there
Because
too.
it's the
is just-
higher level, but I like it for how it breaks it down into something really manageable. This is, I mean, they're so great for literature connections and analysis and vocabulary, but it's hard for some kids.
Absolutely.
You need the visual of it.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's the whole point of this, you know, is the visual part of it, and
Mhm.
just making those connections with the kids, you know, so. So I kind of walked around and answered some questions for you, but did you guys see anything or any other takeaways? Dante, did you see anything that?
I just feel like a lot of these just help bring order to your brain.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
it's kind of like-
Yeah, and that's the goal, for sure, for sure. But, you know, I've got a lot of resources on this stuff. If you guys ever feel like you need more or any other background knowledge on any of this stuff, please come see me, because I would love to pass that on and help you guys out with it, you know. But, you know, I think these kinds of things and letting kids create their own data kind of leads into what Riley was talking about, you know, and just that communication piece from, you know, a smaller scale to a bigger scale. And then being able to let kids articulate it themselves and being able to really break things down so it's relevant to them. And so I think that's one of the biggest goals. And one of the hardest things as a teacher to do is find that connection for them so that they're in charge of their own learning, you know. Yeah.
I think it also would lend itself for one of the things that we're working to do at our school, which is to build depth of ideas and, you know, trying to get off of the surface and trying to get a greater depth or rigor to what they include in their writing or in their math explanations or whatever. And so it pushes past the, oh, I had my easy idea, so I'm just gonna write about that.
Right.
You
Right.
know, I think it pushes that edge.
Definitely, definitely. Well, and like what Beth was explaining, you know, with the classifying, you know, being able to like organize it in a way that they could just map it out a lot easier and they could get a lot deeper, you know. But sometimes they have to visually be able to see that
Right.
before they
Right,
can.
to say, oh, I did the same thing 3 times in a row, whoopsie.
Yeah, oops.
And drop 2
Mhm.
and challenge myself.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, nice. So, Riley, would you mind if we kind of use the same paper for any sort of takeaways or anything like that? Okay.
Go for it.
Would you guys take a couple minutes here to take a look at the piece of paper that you guys have on the paper here to look at some data protocols and just write some feedback for us on there? And thank you for your time. I really appreciate you guys.